right, Dan, we're going into it in about 10 seconds.
Okay, I'm ready.
Just as a reminder, my friends, this channel is for educational or perhaps entertainment purposes only, whichever the law would prefer. It's good to see y'all. Hope you're doing well out there. And we're going to just try to get right into this. I have Dan joining me from OverWatchProject.com. He's also Overwatch Project on Odysee and OverWatchChannel on YouTube. You can find links to his website and channels and social media inside the description tab. And so I want to welcome Dan to come on and join us. It's always great to have you with us, my friend. How you doing, man? I heard health is improving.
Hanging in there, getting better. Thank goodness. No medical screw-ups like last month. Thanks for having me on. Yes, let's get into it. Also, thank you for anybody out there that happens to be listening that sent me generous support. I really appreciate that. Those donations. Thank you. But they're not, you don't have to feel obligated. Everything I have is free of charge on my websites and channel.
Yeah, that's great, man. Yeah, it's a lot of kind people out there. And yeah, like we always talk about, always appreciated but never expected. So, all right. So yeah, what we're going to be talking about today is Tom Campbell. And a discussion he recently had with Dr. Tevin Naidu, I think is how you pronounce it. Anyways, they covered a wide range of topics. And so we're going to go right into the segment on reincarnation. And we're going to get Dan's opinion. And when I was listening to this, felt like there's a lot to say, so let's just dive right into it, and just let me know if you guys can hear everything okay, if my mic and Dan's mic sound okay. Dan's mic was a little low in the beginning, but I think I fixed it. But just let us know if there's any audio issues. I greatly appreciate it. All right, here we go.
Get a disease, you can get killed by force, whether it's being run over by something or whether you're in a fight.
Let me
okay.
that up.
Well,
he's asked about reincarnation.
Is part of the rule set here. Remember, we had initial conditions in a rule set. And the way the rule set works is we grow old and the body dies. Or it's a dangerous place really to be. We may get, killed some other way. We may die some other way. You can get a disease. You can get, killed by force, whether it's being run over by something or whether you're in a fight or whatever. So the human body is going to die. And really that's a good thing, because what we're doing is trying to lower our entropy and grow. And as we get old, we kind of get that been there, done that attitude, and growing gets a little slower. We kind of get settled in our ways, and we think we know just about everything that there is to know. And we're happy with what we know, and we don't care much about what we don't know. And that means the learning kind of gets slower and slower and slower. So what happens when when you get an inefficiency like that is, well, you need to reboot. You need to say, well, okay, we've got enough out of that character. We're not going to get much more out of him, so let's go to another. Because when you're very young, you're very much open to everything, because you don't know yet all the things that are impossible. So everything's kind of possible when you're young. And a lot of those things that people will tell you are impossible really aren't impossible. Those are just beliefs that those people have, you see. That's how we make progress. We grow, we do things that are better. So Okay, let's say you are an individual and your body dies. When your body dies, then that free will awareness unit is done, right? The free will awareness unit was just that piece of the individuated unit of consciousness that was logged on to play all the choices for that body, make all the choices. So that free will awareness unit now, that partition comes down and it starts to reintegrate with the individuated unit of consciousness. The individual itself, their awareness goes from I'm here, I'm alive to, oh, where am I? What's going on? You find yourself not in the old reality anymore, but some other reality. At that point, there is another virtual reality called the transition reality. Now, I just made that name up because that's basically what it does. And that's a reality that's been designed to help people transition from one, experience to another.
It's designed to help, Dan. It's all designed to help us.
Yes. Can I commentate for a few minutes?
Please do.
Okay. First, I want everybody out there to know when I was going through my decades of research, Tom Campbell was a natural follow-up after, like Monroe, Buellman, etc. I did go through his Big Toe books. I did not have any bias toward the man at the time. As a matter of fact, I was still trying to figure things out, and so it's not like that. But honestly, this Tom Campbell is the embodiment of the fairy tale "The Emperor Has No Clothes." I don't understand why people need gurus or they need leaders or somebody to tell them what is. My opinion is everybody should, develop that on their own, and then they're in charge of themselves. Also, he is a master of taking simple things and turning them into complex minutia. His books. It took me longer to go through his books than it did to analyze the Bible, which I did in 4 different versions, along with the Septuagint and all these other extra books that weren't. I mean, that was even easier than going through his book. And at least the Bible has entertainment value, you could say, stories with plots. I mean, his explanation for things is mind-boggling when you take a look at the totality of evidence. It goes also counter to what we experience as human beings. I can't even relate to a lot of what he says. And then he ends up becoming an annoyance, and I have to temper that because, I'm a heart medicine and stuff.
That's right. Got to tone it down a little now, Dan. It's not like the old days.
No, it's not like the old days.
Can't get worked up as much.
It's not like I came in. I never went into this with a closed mind. I'm an investigator by nature. In order for somebody to get to the level that he's gotten, it took a long time of researching, thinking about what he was saying, and analyzing his conclusions in the face of the totality of the information available. And that's when it all starts to crumble, and it also sounds absolutely ludicrous.
Yep. And he doesn't budge. He does, like, at least from what I've noticed. It's not like I've been following him religiously, but I went through his books, and it's I had my little phase with him, but from what I gathered, at least kind of checking in and out with him over the years since going through his books and some of his lectures in the past, he doesn't really seem to budge at all. He says he's open to other information, but I don't see, he doesn't leave any real openness, I guess you can say.
No.
to change the path that my big toe puts out there. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Perhaps I'm wrong. I very well could be, because again, I'm not following him religiously, so don't take me on that 100%.
No, me either. Also, in this very clip that you just played, I don't remember the exact part, and I'm sort of paraphrasing here, but when he says we get to a point where we think we know everything and then we stop learning, well, is he talking about himself? Because, I mean,
projecting.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I haven't stopped learning. I have. Sometimes I give myself a break from investigating this stuff and get distracted in some things like hobbies, etc., just to get my mind off of stuff. But learning, I'm always open to information. I'm always looking for new information. I'm always giving thumbs up to people that leave me comments that show me something I didn't know. Even earlier today, somebody pointed out that I forgot to put in my book list on my website. I forgot to put the Anti-Federalist Papers on there. They're there now. That link is there now. But I was like, oh my, I did forget to put that in there. That's an important document. Those are important documents for people doing a massive amount of research.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's amazing about like the communities that have kind of developed around this whole topic. There are so many smart individuals out there who, like, they share something I didn't consider or wasn't aware of, or maybe they say, check out this book or this movie or this album or this song or this TV, or this game or anything. There's just so many examples of it where something's been shared that's been of tremendous value.
Yes, I get those all the time. I also was going to put it out there. I don't know if anybody can answer this, but it seems to me like everybody of like mind to this kind of stuff, as we are here with our way of looking at things, I've noticed that, besides myself, it's not just me, but I know a lot of people that have they're all various and diverse, different health problems or suffering in some way. Have you noticed that, Mariah? I know you've gone through some stuff lately also. So have you noticed?
Yeah, it does seem to be a little more prevalent, and it's funny you brought that up, because I'm gonna take a poll tonight, and I'm curious if any of you, like a lot of individuals I'm talking to, or just run across, maybe just they're randomly commenting or in the member server or something like that. Or just talking to them privately. They're saying how just fatigued everyone's saying they're fatigued, just worn out, or perhaps having complications with health. And Christ, man, you are an example of that. So yeah, it just and I think there's, at least the state we live in, at least it seems that there's also been an uptick in what's going on in the sky, let's just say. Almost we had 2 months of complete bombardment here, where it's supposed to be the best time of the year, and pretty much everyone locally that I've spoken to seems to not be feeling well.
Yeah,
my circle's small, but still everyone seems to say the same thing.
Even I got a message from Sophia Di Gregorio the other day. She listened to our last podcast together, and she mentioned some of her problems, and I was like, "Wow, that's amazing!" Because now I know everybody that I know that is of a certain viewpoint, and it doesn't have to be a health problem. it can be other dilemmas going on in their lives. It just seems to be people are getting stuff thrown at them that are occupying their time in a negative way.
Yeah, and Lawrence brings up a good point on YouTube. He says post-traumatic stress from the 2020 thing that went on.
Yeah, that too.
That could be some sort of lingering thing subconsciously. Who knows?
It could be, yeah.
And I want to just say hello to everyone on Odysee and Rumble as well. Hope you're well tonight and happy that you're joining us.
But back to Tom Campbell here. His ability to, I don't know, he has a certain way. What would you describe it as, Mark?
Well, I mean, there's no real kind way to put it, but I would say pompous.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to say it. I mean, I think he's pompous. I think he's... I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to say anything else.
I think earlier we had the synchronicity of using the same word.
We did. That was funny as hell within seconds. Anyways, anything else you want to add before we continue?
No, I just wanted everybody to get a general idea of where I'm coming from when it is to his theories of everything.
Yes.
I call those experience packets. One experience packet to another experience.
Okay. So just so you guys know, this is my understanding. He doesn't want to use the word reincarnation anymore, or at least I don't know when this stopped. Perhaps it was part of my big toe and I just forgot. But I remember he was using the term more often, because why wouldn't you use the term? That's what people are familiar with. Now he's using the term experience packets. Just let that sink in. Experience packets is his version of reincarnation. Okay, just that has to be said.
Experience packet. Other people call that reincarnation. I like to avoid all the words and terminology that has to do with anybody's religion or other ideas, because a lot of people hold those ideas real sacred. They get upset if you say things about them that they don't agree with, and it just creates a lot of trouble. So I make up my own terms. So we're talking about experience packets that you have.
And just also another thing is, I know you
Mark,
often say that you also don't want this to be entwined with theology. You want people to actually, sometimes name these.
There we go. I'm sorry.
Right. And I know he had obviously connection with Monroe, but that was Monroe's original thinking for his books. I feel like there's a little bit of, I don't want to say plagiarism, but kind of copycatting.
Yeah.
Hijacking, copycatting. But Monroe did it in a much more, like a better way, say, to compare. Campbell seems to reduce us down to stupid computers. And we are not stupid computers. We have traits that you could use as an analogy to a computer. But we are infinite consciousness with probably God level awareness. We just happen to be reduced down at this point in time in these avatars, in these human bodies, which are so crappily designed that people can believe just about anything, including Tom.
Yeah, and like one thing we talk, 3 ads. Are you serious? Okay, that's not right. Someone said they got 3 ads. I'm sorry. YouTube is adding them more and more. That shouldn't be happening that much, but anyways, I know he thinks we're like expanded consciousness and stuff like that, but what he does is he minimizes who and what we are. Like you said, that we are these basically creator beings or godlike beings or whatever, however you want to term them. We're all eternal beings and have a lot more power than we're led on to believe. And he minimizes that by thinking that and just excusing away that we need to be subservient to whatever the hell happens to be running this whole thing. I mean, wait till you hear some of the shit he says in this. I mean, it's going to blow you away. It's going to blow all you guys away because it's completely bonkers. Like, I think he brings up something like, oh, you've had 60,000 wives or 30,000 wives and, you know, this and that. And like remembering those things would be a detriment to you. I mean, whatever. Anyways, we'll get to that. But I'm sorry, kind of rambling off a little bit. What else you got to say?
No, go ahead. Play some more.
Okay.
You also don't want this to be entwined with theology. You want people to actually, you sometimes name these things, relatively silly names. You sometimes like to actually do that on purpose.
Yes, I do that on purpose so that people won't get that serious about it. I don't want to start a new theology. What I'd like to do is help correct.
Yeah, but you did, Tom. You did. And you're rigid.
Serious about it. I don't want to start a new theology. What I'd like to do is help correct an old theology. You know, that would be better.
I think that even though you don't want to start one, it's probably going to happen.
I hope not. I hope not. I try very hard not to make that happen. Like you say, the entity that's kind of in charge of this part of the non-physical space and consciousness, I named him the Big Cheese, just because I thought that was funny enough that people wouldn't start to get down on their knees and, you know, pray to the Big Cheese. It's just too silly to do that. So I make up these names, but a lot of people who do understand my big toe very deeply, and they're also religious, then they do see the larger conscious system as God. And for them, it's like, wow, great. Now I know really what God is and where God comes from. And so it solves a lot of problems for them because the God thing is all kind of magic and assumptions. It doesn't have much solidity to it from a logical viewpoint. Well, now suddenly it's logical and it makes sense. So there are people who, think that the larger conscious system is God. Well, it is the creator. We are a piece of it. We're made in its image. We're a piece of consciousness.
See, he brings that out. We're made in its image.
Isn't
that like shouldn't that be like a big red flag? Shouldn't that be a ton of points against this piece of shit?
Yeah, I never understood the. I do understand it. The human being is. I just picture that 400,000 or 500,000, whenever humans were originally designed by whatever, and then they were designed so that consciousness could fill in there, and we were probably some kind of just temporary slave race for some beings that were here, or whatever, very similar to what's in the Sumerian mythologies. And then after they left a very broken, weak-minded species behind with that cycles into all these reincarnations and attracts new consciousness to incarnate here over and over again. And it doesn't mean that we're a piece of anything else. I'm in a minority of thinking that every consciousness is unique unto itself. It does not belong to anything else.
Yeah, no sort of group think or group attachment.
Nothing. No group thing. No. The only thing that is like that is that, and again, you can use a computer analogy. Computer, like a laptop, is by itself. It has its own styling, it has its own parameters, its own specs. It's a unique piece of hardware. It interacts with other computers through a network. Consciousness is similar. Like we do remote viewing, there's psychics, there are mediums. They're connecting to basically sort of like a, you can call it the spirit internet or the ethereal internet or whatever you want to call it. The connection can give you a point of view that you are one with all these other things, but you're not. You're just interfacing with them. You're just interacting with
Yes.
everything else, and you are alone. You are a lone conscious being, and right now, currently in human form. That is the conclusions I came to after many years of trying to sort this stuff out. And one of the reasons that I reject this, we're all one thing or we're part of something else. First of all, it diminishes what you are. But second of all, this is like the theme that is in virtually everything.
100%.
That's constantly shoved down your throat. It's in every religion, in one form or another. It's in all these like pseudo-religious philosophies. And then if you go to the other extreme and you're a materialist, the materialist sees everything as meaningless, just an accident. So, I mean, those are the two prevailing theories. We're some part of something else, so you're basically worthless. You're just a piece of something. Or you're a meaningless accident. Wow. And that's the prevailing intellectual, the know-it-alls.
Yep.
So I came to the conclusion that that's got to be all bullshit. Because first of all, I don't feel like I'm a part of anything.
Yeah, no. Same here. It's I feel like the group think, the group collective, all that stuff is just messed up. Like it's like you said, it's pervasive throughout like all of society. Like it's so pushed on us. It's absurd. And N76, don't say that. That's not right to say that. We're not going there, all right? So say something like that again and you're gone. Anyways, it's messed up. Everything is about concentrating on us being good drones and good worker bees and good, just compliance. Don't push up against any sort of authority whatsoever. And the same applies in the afterlife. And Tom just excuses all of that away in this interview and in his work. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's nothing I view as an authority over me. I do see and recognize things that are coercive toward me. And in the human form, those things can be quite effective.
Yep.
But like we went over when I was in my surgery and I was out of body for a short time, I had no longer any subconscious garbage, luggage attached to authority or anything else. So that's why I think I ended up in that peaceful orange grove environment by myself with nothing bothering me, because nothing would dare bother me or pretend to be some kind of authority over me, because it would become a very unpleasant experience for that being or whatever it was. There is no big cheese, Tom.
Yeah.
Yep. No big cheese over me.
And isn't
I also hate cheese. So
I'll have to part ways with you on that one, Dan. But it's interesting. I find it interesting how he lessens it all. Like, oh, but there's still a big cheese. It's still something that you have to be attuned to or be subservient to. But yet, because I'm not calling it God, it's just called the big cheese. I'm doing better than the gurus or the cults or whatever type of archetypes are being flung around the world.
Yep, exactly.
Anyways,
you can fill in a lot of those little blanks, and it works rather well. So in any case, people do that. I don't. I avoid the word God because, again, it comes with all kinds of emotional energy, and there just isn't any point in ever arguing with emotion or arguing with believers. Those are arguments that have no resolution and never converge. So there's just no point to have them. So I try to avoid them by not using words that will start those kind of arguments. So anyway, it's just the larger consciousness system. Now, I one time did sit down with a couple of theologians. They both had their PhDs in theology. And I asked them to say, what are all the attributes of God? And you write them down. And they did. They wrote them all. They wrote down about 6, 7 things that they said were the attributes of God. And all of those attributes applied directly to the larger consciousness system. Okay. But these attributes were not denominational. They weren't dogmatic things. They were just general things, you see. And so in that case, you know, the LCS and God kind of are a matchup. But there's a lot of people that have a lot of individual kind of dogmatic things wrapped around religion, and I don't go there because MBT, my big toe, has nothing that you need to believe. Matter of fact, belief is the enemy in my scheme of things. If you believe,
it's the enemy for him, but yet he, again, everything is so rigid. So, you know, again, it's like the concept I agree with. You and I talk about it all the time. Like, you know, it's like we have suspicions about what we think's going on here, and there's a lot to support it and lean in a certain direction. But, you know, he has his set ways, and, you know, we did a video together on him about Bob Monroe and the Soul Trap and all that stuff when it was brought up to him. And you guys can check that out if you'd like another time. But and I'll try to leave a link to that on all the platforms if you're interested in checking that out.
Yes, Bob Monroe.
Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
belief will limit your ability.
Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Bob Monroe gave us the probably one of the greatest keys, I thought, because he included the Lush account in his books. He could have very easily just left that out. But I think he was a very honest researcher, especially when he was writing those books and having his experiences. So he included it and then figured out a way to negate it because he didn't want to deal with, I mean, it was obvious. He wrote it as something that so upset him. He withdrew from everything for a while. He became super upset over this whole Lush thing. Campbell's whole thing is way different. He's tried to sort of, I don't know, blueprint all of reality in his big toe. I really hate that title.
Yeah.
And it's very complicated. It's a lot of minutia to go through. I can't think of a better word to describe it. It's so complex that it's like almost like a salesman's tactic to overload you. You know, if you're buying a car or anything that you need you're dealing with a salesman on something big like a house or something. There's, like a technique where they just kind of overload you with nonsensical information and then give you a conclusion or explain it to you somehow. And does that make sense? Am I making sense? I'm not, I'm trying to keep it together here. I'm getting tired, but does that make sense? Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had my mic on, but yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And dude, if you're getting tired or need to bail out at some point, just let me know. No big deal.
Well, I'm gonna hang in there. There's a little
Okay.
bit longer.
Yeah,
It's just
there's
yeah.
about let's see, we're at like the 30-minute mark, and the portion on reincarnation is another, I don't know, 14, 15 minutes without commentary.
Well, let's listen to some more and hear what
Yeah. Yeah, you just let me know. No
Yeah.
big deal, man. I want you to get some sleep tonight. I know you got an early morning tomorrow.
Yeah. Thanks.
My
But yeah.
scheme of things. If you believe something, that belief will limit your ability to find out for sure what's going on. You just believe it. You stop asking questions. So, in MBT, it's believe nothing. Be skeptical of everything. And that includes everything I say, too. You have to be skeptical of it. If it's not your experience, then it's not really your truth. So
I agree with
I
that.
implore everyone to be skeptical and find out for
100%.
yourself whether there's truth in this or not. And there's many ways you can do that. So, and I give people tools to help them do that. You can find them at my website. So that's
Let's go back to the death, Tom. Just to,
okay. So you die, you end up in the transition reality. Now, the transition reality, the first thing that it wants to accomplish when somebody who's just died shows up, it wants to make them relax and let go and not be so hysterical about, am I in heaven or I'm in hell or what's going on here, So mostly it's just to comfort and to get people to let go. Now, the thing that helps people letting go from the past experience is that their past life that they just exited starts to fade, just like dreams fade. The instant after they died, they remember every detail of it. A minute later, it's kind of fuzzy. 3 or 4 minutes later, they only got the highlights. And, by 5 minutes later, it's kind of, I remember having that dream, but you don't relate to it that much anymore. That's the way dreams are. And that's the way your past life is.
Yeah, that's the way it is. Don't remember a goddamn thing, and, no big deal. It's okay. Right, Dan?
Right. So he's describing the veil of forgetfulness, right?
Yep, 100%.
That's what he's describing.
Yep.
Okay. Now, how on earth can anybody? I mean, I understand that a lot of people do, but I don't understand how they do it. How do you process this going on and still think it's somehow for your benefit? That makes no sense. 0 sense. What you've just done in an entire lifetime gets erased. And then you're in a transition, or you can be in like Michael Newton's books where you're with your soul pod or whatever version of that you want to be. But basically, you're in the system that is going to keep you in the earth astral. And if there's space for you, you'll be reincarnated back into the physical. Since there's so many billions of people here, there's a lot of room for, a lot of births going on and a lot of room for consciousness to cycle back down here. And a lot of them are waiting to come back down here enthusiastically. And a lot of naive new ones are signing up with Ed, the entry director, so they can come down here.
Exactly.
No. So, but how can you, I just had this whole experience. It's a learning thing. I'm going to forget all about it because that makes sense nowhere. Nowhere does that make sense. And then I'm going to repeat it so that I can forget it again.
Again and again and again and again.
And nobody looks at that as like, wait a minute, that must be for some nefarious purpose.
Yeah, it's always positive.
Right. No, it doesn't benefit me at all. I mean, even on Earth here, we kind of can figure out eventually if we're being taken for a ride or conned or being used by someone, betrayed by someone. Most people will eventually wake up to that and figure it out. There are humans here that act very parasitic, to other humans. How does this? How can this make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. It's so infuriating. But you know,
It is.
go ahead.
And, yeah, and I mean, there's just so many things. Like you brought up the human body. You know, when Wayne and I dug into the, you know, just the dog eat dog world of everything. You know, like the pecking order of how everything has to kill each other. I mean, Christ's sake, how much more obvious can it be? I mean, it's so obvious that there is some sort of parasitic force at play. And just to kind of add on to the whole Sumerian thing, like, I don't know if that's, you know, whatever that is, like, but it's some sort of truth to that. And whether, but I'm of the belief that this has been going on probably way longer than we can even possibly imagine. I think that could be, you know, perhaps part of the truth. But if you think about all of these resets, like who knows how many have occurred, how many times we've been through the destruction of the realm and how much information has been lost. If you think about it, how many incidents have occurred where we build up. There's this mass availability of information being shared with everybody, and then boom, it just collapses because the parasites decide to hit the reset button. So humanity, even when you come back here, there's literally no way whatsoever to actually get a rational, lucid, consistent history of what's happened here. And then you see about how they've lied and manipulated and screwed with everything. Like just with the Sumerian stuff, like just like Sitchin, you know, complete liar.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like
Sitchin.
in what he did, you know, I mean, it's just a prime example of how you can't trust fucking anything, but you can look at the overall collective of information. You can look at the very existence of day-to-day life and what happens here and how screwed up humanity is in early childhood development and everything related to that, how we learn and how we're sponges for information from birth to age 6 or 7, and how that can be a roadmap for the rest of our lives. Then there's the past life stuff, the trauma, the past life trauma, the subconscious stuff, all these different things that play such a massive role. And yet here we are twiddling our thumbs. And then what are they going to do? They're going to reset it again. Humanity is going to lose all this information, and they're going to start from zero again. And then they're just going to keep reincarnating, and then the same thing's going to happen over and over and over again. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Now, as far as just to clarify for anybody out there, I'm not saying that the Sumerian texts are telling you the all the details of, you know, the origins of humanity. What I do think is the mythology of the Sumerians is the actual oldest one that we have. And if you go through the Babylonians, the Akkadians, the Israelites, etc., on and on and on, and the Christian version of that, etc., you can literally see how the Sumerian myths were taken by like the Babylonians, then altered and like partially plagiarized and changed for their culture, and then the Akkadians, etc., all the way to present time. And then you can say, well, the Sumerians are the oldest one we have. And when you look at the core elements of what the story is saying, it's probably closer to the truth than anything ever. Now, Sitchin, why he did what he did, which is basically take genuine mythologies from the Sumerians and then just invent out of thin air stuff that wasn't even in the text.
Yeah.
He just invented it. I mean, there is no such thing as Anunnaki in the text.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist. Nobody said anything about gold.
Yep,
not
that
in
too.
there.
Yep, yeah, it's not there. It's not there. You can go.
When
What
you
was
read
it?
about-
The library of the Oxford Library, I think, has the tablets. You can go through all of them. They are literally not there, and
It's
yet
not
this
there.
thing is pushed beyond belief. Like, you go search Anunnaki's huge. It's all fucking, no, not all bullshit, but, you know, like you said, like, he just invented things.
He just inserted imaginary stuff that was never there for, like, you know, like, it's, and I assume that is exactly what the Babylonians did. They read the Sumerian text, or they knew their Sumerian mythologies, and then they changed them. But they weren't probably doing what, I don't know, maybe it's very similar to what Sitchin did. They just changed them. I mean, the government of the Babylonians wanted their people to believe certain things, so they altered it. The Sumerians probably took some other unknown mythology that came before them and altered it for themselves. But since the story, you can track it backward, you get to certain core elements in the Sumerian stuff that makes a lot more sense than the other garbage and trash that came after it. I mean,
and
some of this,
it's just unbelievable. It's but you know, it's like, when it's what's the phrase? Like, if you tell a lie long enough, it becomes truth, right? It becomes believable. And Sitchin is a prime example of that. Like, people hang on his every word. I mean, I see his books all the time when I go to the used bookstore, and it's just all these channels covering his bullshit. I mean, and then, I don't know. I mean, I could go off. I don't know, whatever.
It's true. It's like this unknown grantor of the guru license.
And I think he was a 33rd degree Mason. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe he was. Sure. But it's like this guru status these people get, and maybe it's because they write giant books. I don't know. But all of a sudden they have like these followers, and then they get like spots on Ancient Aliens and other documentaries, and you know, and it's like, where does that come from? Why is everybody listening to that guy? Where did he get his stuff? I mean, it goes even like things like Carl Sagan. Some of the stuff he said, even as a kid, I'm listening to him like, that doesn't make any sense.
Billions and billions and billions and billions.
And his modern day
and billions and billions.
What is the modern day replacement for Sagan? I forget the guy's name.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, probably, I guess.
That guy's even worse than Sagan. I mean, when he opens his mouth, I'm like, how is anybody taking all of this stuff he says seriously?
There was okay, just a quick side story. Okay, so when I was in my alien phase, and even I was still like pretty on board with the Soul Trap, but was having a hard time coming to grips with it. Let's just put it this way. I had interviewed, and those interviews are nowhere to be seen because I destroyed them because I'm embarrassed that they even exist. But if for some reason there is some remnants of these interviews with Jordan Maxwell, we had talked about Sitchin, but I also was having I wouldn't say regular, but occasional phone calls with Jordan Maxwell. And Maxwell was friends with Sitchin. They did some quote-unquote documentaries together and shit like that. And anyways, like one night, Maxwell calls me drunk off his ass, and he's now since passed, I think a few years ago or something. But anyways, he calls me drunk off his ass, and I was just like not in the mood. And so I asked him straight out. I was like, why did you come on my channel and push bullshit about Sitchin when these translations are not correct? And he goes, Mark, he goes, it's a business decision. At the time when I was with Sitchin, what we did was purely a business decision. So he was basically admitting to me that, yes, what he shared with Sitchin back in the day, there was a financial opportunity attached to it. So he went along with the bullshit to, make money, for both of them to make money. Kid you not, that's a true story.
It makes sense. All of this stuff, when it becomes just about making money or selling your books, then you lose sight of what the hell you got into it in the first place. I just wanted to. I'm just sharing information with anybody else that's interested.
Sure.
There's no fees attached necessary to get it from me. And I'm just like, hey, does anybody else care about this stuff? And here's what I found. And here's where I got the information from to look at. And that's why I have created OverWatchProject.com, because it's just like a giant source material, a list of books, lists of links, talking about decades of research that, it's slow, it's chaotic at times. It was all consuming for many years, where you just like completely immersed in it. Who wants to do all that? Maybe a lot of people do, obviously the ones that listen to our channel, but it's not an easy thing.
No, it's not. It's insanely time consuming. Christ. Anyways, yeah, the amount of time put into going through all this is just, I'd love to know like the grand total of hours just in books and listening and watching and all sorts of stuff, and like even just kind of being able to get out of all the agent stuff that's out there. Anyways, let's move on. It's crazy.
So they just want you to kind of be still and connect and be happy and be positive, just long enough for all those past life memories to disappear like a dream.
Why do you think that happens?
Well, why that happens is because all of that past life stuff brings a lot of fear with it. There's a lot of fears there.
Okay, so just to recap, what he's excusing here is the memory wipe. I think.
Yes.
I think, right? Isn't that
That and all the suffering.
Or the suffering, yeah. Okay, I
So-
think it's this part, right?
I mean, he's excusing all of it
Yeah.
with no explanation. There's no, what's my benefit? What's the benefit to me, Tom? What does it do for me if I forget everything?
Exactly.
What?
Yeah, you forget everything.
But why do I subconsciously carry phobias and traumas from other lifetimes then?
Yeah, and it's interesting. He even uses the term, we don't, that's why we don't come here with a guidebook. It's like, exactly, that's what we talk about. We talk about it all the time. We don't come here with any sort of guidebook. Like, it's like you're just thrown to the wolves. And it's like, hey, good luck.
Yeah, it's genius.
It is.
That,
It really is.
It's diabolically evil is what it is, but it's genius that, human beings are designed to be born absolutely helpless. Yeah. So, and then you have the first imprint of authority from your parents, which are absolutely necessary to your survival. Hopefully you get good ones, but you can have really lousy ones. And then everything that happens to you from birth to 7 years old, you're in a hypnagogic state. Yeah. Which basically means that you're just being brainwashed for 7 years.
Yeah.
That is supposed to be something good. And then you go through all of life, then you die after years and years of who knows what kind of life you had. Maybe it's got, some good in it. Maybe it's really, really bad. And then you get to forget all of it. And then, but, some of the trauma does still cling into the subconscious of your next lifetime. So you get to get some, maybe you drowned, so you get to have water phobia.
Water, yeah.
Maybe you got impaled by a spear, so you get a birthmark where that happened. Yeah, it's all great, Tom. It makes total sense. Totally just like a game.
It's wonderful.
I'm sorry, I'm losing it.
I love it.
Life stuff brings a lot of fear with it. There's a lot of fears there. And trying to deal with all of that when there's really nothing you can do about it, it's over. right? Oh, I left my children. Who's going to take care of them? Oh, I did this. Oh, I did that. Am I in heaven or I'm in hell? Am I going to be punished forever? So you have all this junk that people are struggling with, are afraid of, and they're fearful because this is the unknown now. So they're in the unknown, and people are kind of afraid of the unknown. So you have to kind of comfort them as they show up. And the way the system does that is somebody, it's like the Walmart greeter. I don't know if that makes any sense to you in South Africa, but here we have these big stores, and there's somebody stands inside the door. Welcome to Walmart. Yeah. What are you looking for? Oh, hardware's over there. That kind of a person. So you kind of have the greeters there.
Yeah, welcome to the store that's decimated every
it's more
goddamn...
like the Venus flytrap.
Yeah, exactly.
Walmart greeter.
Yeah. Oh God, and it's
you there?
Yeah. It's like welcome to Walmart, where we've decimated every goddamn small business in America. Welcome.
But also, what he's saying is factually incorrect. People do end up in hellish environments. People do end up in hollow heavens. And some people don't even leave the earthly plane right away. They hang around their relatives, families, homes, or wherever they died at.
Yeah, the attachments. Yeah.
Yes, they don't leave. They don't go to the light. They don't go anywhere. They are actually,
lower Earth astral, basically.
Yeah, the very low Earth astral, where you're in the same kind of viewing space as where the physical is, but you can't really interact with it. If you do, you're basically just like a haunting or a ghost at best. Right? So that's totally factually incorrect. That's not what happens. It's not everybody goes to the other side and they are lulled into some kind of, first of all, that really sounds like, what we do to animals to put them down. Where you kind of just lull them into, give them a drug and make them feel good, etc. Is that what it is? That's what he's describing.
Well, that's what they do here too, at least in America. It's like they don't say that's what they do, but that's what they do.
Right. So his accounting here isn't even factually correct with the totality of the information available from near-death experiences.
That welcome people to say everything's fine, you're doing great, yeah, you're gonna like it here, whatever. Just things to make people, oh, really? And they kind of look around and everything's clean and looks nice. And then if the people who are a little more worried, the ones that have more fear, then they get to see relatives. Oh, look, there's your Uncle Fred that died 10 years ago. He's come here to greet you.
See, I find it interesting that he's saying that those who have more fear are the ones that would see their relatives. I think that's complete bullshit. I think it's more common that relatives will come and visit on their deathbed, regardless of whether they're at peace with what's about to happen or not. It's very, very common. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't put a number affixed to that, but it's so common that, at least in everything that I've looked at, that it doesn't seem it. Not all of them are based in fear.
No, that's totally not. Again, completely incorrect with the data available.
Yeah,
that's my big problem with Campbell, is he spews out a lot of stuff as if fact.
Yeah.
But that is not correct. Near-death experience has a ton of information, endless amounts of cases now. Thousands and thousands since 1975. Since we elevated medical science to the ability to resuscitate people more longer into a dead state and bring them back, we have a lot of data. So what is some of that data? If I remember right, 20% of people end up in a hellscape environment. 80% are in
it's like 17% or 20%, whatever, close enough.
It's a low percentage.
Yeah.
It's a low. So like 2 or 1 out of 10 don't have a very nice experience. But also like people aren't afraid at all and their relatives are waiting for them. What is he talking about? Some of them don't see relatives at all. They see a religious figure that they've been
could be
worshiping
Jesus or who they think is God, Buddha, Bubba.
Yeah, all of them, right? They've all shown up, and some of them see. Some people meet aliens, right? There's a wide variety, but the relative thing, the meaning of relatives is pretty common, and it happens to people that are in a very pleasant. Oh, I felt love, right? How many videos have you done with the overwhelming love, and then the relatives show up? They're not afraid of anything.
Yeah,
they're being showered in love, and then my uncle and my parents and my dead child was there, and everybody was young and beautiful.
They're always not in the state that they were when they were when they were dying. So say they had cancer, and were say that lost their hair or something. They don't look like that. They look young and just bright and incredibly healthy, like the best form of themselves when these experiences happen.
Right. Now, in my opinion, these are actually the actual relatives and family members. I believe that because if you are, say, part of a cult or a religion here on Earth, or some kind of group mind, your friends and family that are part of that group mind will interact with you on behalf of the group, and therefore they will want you to be with them. So I mean, we see this all the time. Scientology, all the religions, really, any one of them. And so my opinion is that they are just become like the Matrix customer service department or the sales department to get you to comply, because they've complied, and they think they're doing the right thing in their minds. And as far as the other beings, these are just part of the Matrix, the shysters that are, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different Jesuses out there. There's a whole bunch of different beings out there that basically you can look and be anything you want to be. Once you're free of the human body, once you're aware that you're just like non-physical consciousness, you can become young again or look like anyone. You can change your appearance to be anything. Yeah, what do you think, Mark?
Yeah, no, you can. I the only thing I will say is the only thing I disagree with you on is that I don't believe that every single. I think some instances, I think after death communication, some beings deceased family members are actually communicating with their loved ones here on Earth. I don't believe that in every, or more than even likely, that the majority of cases, especially if there's a long period of quote-unquote time in between, that who they think they're dealing with is in fact their loved one. I mean, so but that's like a technicality. It really doesn't even matter. It really doesn't matter because we're looking at the situation is the same thing regardless. You have one being that is being a representation of a deception, and that they're just completely fake, but because the system has access to all of those interactions and is able to make a very good copy of that being who is your family member or pet or whoever or a deity, then they're able to make it feel real. But then on the other hand, the being that potentially is real is still under the illusion and hypnosis of the Matrix. So they're still believing in it. And so either way, it's like the same thing. If you're going to interact with your loved one and it gives you solace and peace and comfort and some sort of motivation after having those interactions, it has one goal in mind, and that's to keep you reincarnating. That's to keep you on the hamster wheel and believing in what it's selling. So to me, it doesn't matter whether it's real or not. I could give a shit, because its number one goal is to keep the scam going, keep the deception going.
It may be that you are correct, and that look, the way I see it is, it's impossible to know people in NDEs.
It is.
If they're seeing their real relatives, or if they're seeing some other consciousness that has assumed the identity, because the people are not investigating anything. They're not challenging anything. They're submitting to authority.
Exactly.
I would say that for people like me and you, yes, I would definitely make sure that I'm dealing with, I'd be curious to see if I'm dealing with an actual relative or a family member or friend or whatever, or if it's a facsimile or some kind of fake. But that would be because I'm going to challenge that being. I'm going to probe it. I'm going to. It's very similar to that Voyager episode with Captain Janeway there with her father. Remember that famous episode? Everybody knows.
Oh,
about
yeah. Yep.
And that was not her father, right? He just assumed the identity and tried to lure her into the light. I mean, that was a lot.
And then he's like, "I'll be back." He's like,
Yeah,
I'll be back. Basically, when you're really on your deathbed, I'll be back, and I'll get you then.
Yeah. So
I wish we could play stuff like that. I mean, this is like such a sore spot about doing anything on YouTube, or like actually, it reaches out to the other platforms too. But
yeah,
at least with copyright.
Yeah, the copyright thing isn't fairly used, because it seems to me some people can just play whatever they want, and other people, I mean, me, for example, I just stick to showing people my web browser and don't play anything. I just talk. And the reason is that the slightest freaking thing will get me flagged for copyright violations.
Yeah.
So, I don't even bother.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, I fight a lot of them. I've fought so many, and I've won most of them. I would say, I don't know, probably like 95% I've won. But
I fight them too. I fought them.
Pain in the ass, though.
I got tired of fighting them, but I fought them. I mean, for crying out loud, they were flagging me for copyright violations for things that were in the Creative Commons.
Yep, that's happened to me too.
How are you? I mean, it's Creative Commons. Hello.
Yeah.
There's no copyright.
Says it right on the video. Creative Commons. Yep.
Yeah. All TED videos are in the Creative Commons.
Please, I know.
Says so right there.
I did one too. Like there was, it doesn't even matter. But yeah, I did a couple TED videos, but one specifically I did, and they hit me right away, and I responded and they removed it. But you know what I noticed they do is they wait 30 days. So because that's how I think that's how long they have to respond. So most people find this boring, but I'll just sum it up quick. Like I think what most individuals do will hold off and wait the extended amount of time that's allowable by law or by YouTube guidelines, and then file their response. But in the long run, they're going to lose. But for the few things that I've covered, it was just, I'm convinced it was just things that they didn't like what was being talked about.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, I'm going to have to cut out soon. You want to
Okay.
play another minute or so? And then,
Yeah. Okay, you just let me know you want to dip out, man.
Okay.
Well, it's not really their Uncle Fred. That's just a representation of Uncle Fred from the database. And we'll talk about what database and why do we have a database and so on. But it's not really your Uncle Fred. Your Uncle Fred's gone off to some other experience packets. He's not hanging around just waiting for you to die so he can say hello. That just doesn't make any sense. So Uncle Fred and Aunt Susie and lots of people, whoever you know who's died, they come and they tell you what a wonderful place it is and you'll do fine. And they greet you and you relax and say, well, this seems like a nice place. I guess I'm not going to hell. I guess this is going to be okay. And then you relax. And that's the whole point of it. Sometimes, depending on your level of stress, they will just tell you to do things that are just busy work in order to get you to just pass some time by and relax and let go. So often they'll say, well, okay, we have you right here. What's your name? Joe Smith. Oh, yeah, Joe. We've been waiting for you. Go over there. See that lady over there? Go see that line. She's processing people and go stand in that line. And when she gets to you, she'll tell you what to do next. Well, there is no point. The lady's not doing anything at all. She's just creating a line so that people have something to do for a while and they don't get panicked or upset or, okay, what's next? What am I supposed to do? Is this this is the eternal, do I need to know how to play a harp? What's going on here? So it just gives them something to do. It takes up their time. And if they're still stressed by the time they get to the front of the line, well, she'll tell them to go over now. She has to see the guy over there. He handles people like you. It's just buying more time. Well, eventually people get over it. They forget.
He handles people like you.
Let me comment.
Is that what we're talking about? He handles people like you.
This is too much. This is
Please.
This is too much. And first of all, I forget, but what type of physicist is he? Astro or quantum?
Good question. He's not quantum, I don't think.
No.
I'll look it
up. Theoretical.
Might be theoretical.
Okay, whatever he is, he is a scientist, right?
Yes.
And it is in physics, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So first of all, I just want to point out again, factually incorrect. I shouldn't be pointing this out to a physicist, but we have lots of NDE data that indicates that time here and time outside in the afterlife or in the astral plane do not work the same way. There is some type of difference in the way time works. So could you meet someone there for real and have that person also have been reincarnated again already at the same time?
Yeah.
Yes, that could happen, right, Tom? Because we know, like, through quantum physics, that there's all kinds of weird crap that goes on with time. So that's wrong right there. And then as far as me getting in line to listen to somebody tell me what to do, well, that's not happening because I'm not submitting to any authority or lines or waiting. I'm not going to be, what is the Afterlife Division of Motor Vehicles? I mean, this is absolutely ludicrous. Why would I listen to anyone tell me what to do? Not going to listen to anyone in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a physical body anymore. I don't need a car to travel. I can go anywhere I want, an instantaneous thought. I don't need to depend on others to eat or I have to go to the store or to pay bills or to submit to taxation, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, we know through NDEs there's no speed limit in the afterlife, because people get zoomed through infinite space and time in an instant. So, not everything he just said there is, again, factually incorrect, does not jive with the data available. the totality of the data doesn't fit anything he said. So
Well said.
that's where I have to end, unfortunately.
Okay. No problem.
But I want you to continue, Mark, because I'm going to listen to the rest of it tomorrow after I get done my thing in the early morning.
Okay.
But
Well,
I am getting.
you sleep well, man. It was great having you on for today, and I'm glad
I
you
really-
feel like
yeah.
you've made such a big stride, like just in the last couple weeks or last week. And you know, we were all rooting for you, so it's great
Thank
to have
you.
you back, man.
Thanks, everybody, and I'm also sorry for anybody out there having their own hardships. I hope you get through it and keep fighting the good fight, you know. And I really wish I could finish this with you. As you can tell, I have a lot of commentary to make based on what he's saying.
You do your thing, man. Maybe I may even be able to make this a two-parter because there's so much here that, you know, we may be able to reconvene in a few days.
That'd be awesome, because then I will make sure that I can stick around for hours if we need it.
All right, brother. Well, you sleep well. You know, you have a good morning and get some sleep, and we'll see each other again soon. And don't forget to check out Dan at OverWatchProject.com, Overwatch channel on YouTube, Overwatch Project on Odysee, and you can find out where to find him in the description tab.
All right, bye, everybody. I'm checking out now. I'll see you later.
Good night, brother.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks for stopping by.
Yes, you're well. Thanks for having me.
See you soon, my friend.
Yeah.
Early about their past life, they get you to go. If they're still stressed by the time they get to the front of the line, well, she'll tell them to go over. Now she has to see the guy over there. You know, he handles people like you. You know, it's just buying more time. Well, eventually people get over it. They forget entirely.
Yeah, he handles people like you, but then they forget it. So in between the handling and the memory wipe, you forget. So, what are they? They're handling you. What are you, a ruffian? Are you someone who's maybe asking potentially a few more questions than is desired of the Matrix? Who knows?
About their past life. They don't really have any remember of it. They don't have any of the cares or the worries about their children, or, you know, what happened to they had a wreck in a car, you know, am I the only one that didn't survive, or what, all that stuff just kind of goes away. And they're assured that everything's fine. Oh yeah, your children are fine, that kind of thing. And eventually they'll get to a point where they will get kind of bored, and they'll wonder, well, what's next? Okay, so what do? I've been standing around here for a long time. Let's go to wherever they.
I mean, I guess I'm so bored that there's nothing else to do but, I guess, go back to that amazing place called Earth. And I guess I have to learn and grow and continually reincarnate and be memory wiped and go through suffering over and over and over again for who knows how many lifetimes, because I'm just so bored. I have no choice. God, let me get out of here. Let me go back down and do some suffering on Earth. Let's go. Strap on your boots. Let's go, guys.
The action is, and somebody will talk to you about the next life you're going to have, and the kind of things you should work on, and the kind of things you didn't do very well last time that you need to work on. And if you can't understand that, they may give you a little life review it's like you sit down and watch this movie of your past life, and it's the movie of you making very poor choices, and you'll skip from one poor choice to the next, and being.
See, it's the movie of you making poor choices. We talk about this all the time, how all the NDEers will say time and time again, I was judging myself. It is what it is. But, no one exterior to me was judging me. But yet there are examples after thousands upon thousands upon thousands of examples of a mechanism in place that is able to facilitate this, quote, judgment, sinning, karmic response by the system. See, like, that's the problem. It's like, yeah, oh, you're judging yourself, but yet there's just happens to be a manipulative, deceptive system that is throwing a love bomb at you to judge yourself. See where the disconnect is? I mean, we see it so much. There's so many examples that have been shared on my channel of this. And you don't even need my channel. You can go out, do your own research, and plow through all these experiencer cases, and you'll see the same thing over and over and over again. So, again, what is the systematic approach being implemented on the experiencer or at the time of death that is facilitating this experience? It's an algorithm. It's a computer. It's some sort of weird supercomputer. Like, I don't know. It's something it's a program that's running in the background that is able to love bomb you, and in conjunction with other potential true essence beings or some sort of frequencies that is able to emit a certain frequency that not only guilt trips you, but it also makes you feel as if you are judging yourself when there is clearly some sort of exterior mechanism, key words, exterior mechanism at play facilitating all of this. This has nothing to do with anything being natural. It has something to do with a literal computer program or some sort of a construct that is facilitating this type of experience. That's the difference. It's not natural. It is proven to be something methodical and something planned out.
You sit down and watch this movie of your past life, and it's the movie of you making very poor choices. And you'll skip from one poor choice to the next, and being rude, being unpleasant, being self-centered, all these things you're trying to outgrow. Because remember, we're trying to grow toward love. And you'll look at that and you go, oh yeah, I guess
remember,
I
we're
do
trying to
need
grow towards love.
work on that. And then you get offered another place to go when you're ready. And you can always say, no, I don't like that one. They'll tell you a little about it. And if they'll give you a different one, and you can kind of say, well, what I'd like next time, I want to be filthy rich. I want to be born into a family that's got $1 billion in the bank. And, because last time, all those mistakes I made, I just made them because I was poor. It wasn't me. It's not that my quality of consciousness isn't good. It's just that I had a really bad situation. Well, they point out they show you this past life review where that really wasn't true. It wasn't so much that you were poor, it's just as you were negative. But they may give you that. And you may be born into a family that has $1 billion. And typically, you don't do much better. You become a monster, you become, you run over a lot of other people because now you have power and you're still nasty and not making good choices and so on. And you may de-evolve if you make enough bad choices. And with all that power and not much growth, you're likely to de-evolve if you've got that much power. So you'll come back out from that and you'll be 2 or 3 steps behind where you were last time because you've made a lot of terrible choices.
Okay, but those choices, look, some of them, again, what does it have to do? Why isn't the programming, why isn't the cesspool of what's happening here come into play? Why doesn't the faulty construction of the human body and the surroundings and everything, why is that just like somehow thrown out the door, not considered, Tom? Seriously. All of this stuff is so easily able to be deconstructed. But if you want a certain narrative to be presented, a certain cushy narrative to be presented, a certain new age perspective to be conveyed to your listeners, to your readers, this is how you can frame it. Again, what is the root cause, the root problem of what is happening here? It certainly isn't all of us. Look, I mean, I'll admit it right now. I was a screw up growing up, right? Into like my late 20s. I was lost beyond belief. And I'll readily admit that, okay? I made some horrible decisions in my life. But it took me battling within and coming to profound realizations and not even wanting to accept them and all sorts of crazy things to get to where I am today. There really is a finger to be pointed at what has created this mess. What has created and facilitated the horrible design of the human meat suit. And it trickles down. It's not just with humanity. It trickles down to the animal kingdom. It trickles down to just nature in general. How it is the dog-eat-dog world, as Wayne Bush and I have discussed from trickedbythelight.com, right? And Dan from OverWatchProject.com, how we've all discussed this. Something is facilitating this. And it's not normal, it's not sane, it's not rational, and it needs to be called out and addressed. I mean, the way I see it, there's no more excuses to be made about what's happening here. No more.
And then you thought, oh, being rich wasn't such a good idea. That set me back because I could really mess things up and make a lot of entropy, raise entropy a lot with all that power. So anyhow, this is the process of learning. So you always have free will. You can always say no. You can always wait. There are other places besides this virtual reality that you can go to, but most people just come back to the same one because they already know how it works.
Okay, so there are other virtual realities that you can go to. We've talked about this before, how, yes, there are likely other realms related to the overall Matrix construct, right? Whether they're physical or not, it doesn't matter. There are other realms linked to this place. That's just my gut. I mean, I know that's a fact with astral realms. I can't say that for certain with physical realms because I don't know. I don't have any recollection of those. I haven't been to any of those, at least in my memory, right? But it based on how well thought out, how methodical this whole place is, it sure as heck wouldn't surprise me.
Here, you go to a different one and it's a completely different ball game. So most people come back to the ones that they're used to. So anyway, that's kind of what happened.
They come back to the ones they're used to because they've been memory wiped and manipulated into coming back here.
Happens when you die, then you go back, you get another body, right? Your IUOC puts another partition down, creates another free will awareness unit that just has the level of growth that you've made up to this point. So your growth is cumulative. You keep growing. And then you go off and now you're an infant again. You may go into that, you may log on to that fetus even before it's born. Because as long as there are things to trigger your senses, then you're getting information. So, maybe it's just light and feeling and you're in a squishy fluid sac and, maybe you can do a little punching on the inside of mom or whatever, but you can hear voices, hear music. You get a sense of attitudes and feelings. Are people nice and happy or are people sad and angry? So all of that stuff will affect you somewhat. And then you're born and so on. Life goes until you die, and then the whole thing recycles again. So that's basically the way life works. If you're very frightened when you die, it'll take a little longer for you to process through the, relax and get over it phase. If you're not, if you're an old hand at that, you've been around through the process enough times that you need it, then you skip steps. You don't have to go stand in a line or do any of that kind of stuff, because that's not really important. You go straight to the place where you start thinking about what you need to do next. What are the kinds of things that you failed to do well last time, and how can you work on those and set your mind to kind of focusing on those things, so that when you have your next.
Yeah, let's just focus on what those things are, and let me make sure that I end up coming back here. See, like, Tom's solution is only coming back here. Come back, come back, come back, come back. Yeah, you can take a little break in between. And we've seen that, right? We've seen that in Life Between Lives accounts, pre-birth memories, all these things, right? There, even some past life recollections that have came through in breakthrough trip reports. All this stuff, it's there. It's not like some mystery. I'm sorry, I guess I was on the wrong screen here. I apologize, guys. Anyways, yeah, it's not some mystery. Okay.
Incarnation, you'll tend to be aware of those things. Anyhow, that's the way, life and death is. And it's the same consciousness, just multiple incarnations. And we have to have a lot of variation in our incarnation. Sometimes you need to be male, sometimes female, sometimes, all the races, white and black and yellow and green and pink and whatever there are, you have to experience all of those various cultures, because all of that gives you different perspectives and different choices to make. You don't want to just get a life where you make the same kind of choices all the time. You're not going to grow up much from that. You need lives that give you an array of different sorts of choices in different circumstances, which is why you don't pick.
Okay, but what he's not telling you, and see, like, this is where I have a big problem, along with much of what we've discussed today. There's so much more. Like, you could be born, or we can be born in different locales, right? Different countries, different environments. But what Tom is failing to bring up is how we do have this soul group, how we do have these connections that we make lifetime after lifetime, whether they are true essence beings or not. And that's up for debate. But I think we all come here with mostly true essence beings, and we kind of get addicted to the sensory experience and have reincarnated with one another for many, many lifetimes. Okay? But to leave out that information and say, oh, well, you need to experience this life of poverty in India or this life of poverty in North Korea, and then you need to live the high life in Los Angeles, or the high life in New York City, or the farmer life in the Midwest, or the farmer life in Canada in the middle of the Arctic tundra, or Alaska, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. Everything seems so freaking calculated. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get to whatever lifetime, whether it's good or bad, in a certain amount of lifetimes or time in general. Like, you can live 100, 200, 5,000 lifetimes and be concentrating on one specific thing and be kind of reincarnating in the same soul group or same area, geographical area, And it can vary. It really can vary. But there is such a thing as a soul group where it's like you're almost, quote unquote, helping one another, but you're really not, because all you're doing is feeding off of these relationships and building and building and building and having them, and then you die, and then your memory wiped, and then it starts over again. And some of those relationships can be awesome, memorable, good for you, and then some of them can be horrible and awful for you. It varies. It varies greatly, but based on, quote unquote, what you're working on in that lifetime is a dictation of what you're going to experience. Okay, so there really is a big lack of information that is like completely non-existent in this conversation. That is really important.
Grow up much from that. You need lives that give you an array of different sorts of choices in different circumstances, which is why you don't take your intellect along, because if you did, all you do is try to game the system. Oh, well, what choice should I make here? Oh, yeah, I should do this. Well, that's the acting kind instead of the being kind. That's not going to help you. We don't want you to try to game the system. You need to act out of who you are sincerely, out of the authentic you has to make the choice. Well, the way the authentic you has to make the choice is that all the intellectual part is gone. So what's left is the authentic you. So that's why you shouldn't, that you don't want all that knowledge. Not only that, it would be ridiculously
It's just
cumbersome
too much,
if you
too much.
were aware. Oh, let's see. I've had 20,000 wives and about
Listen to
60,000 children, and I loved every one of them dearly. They were my whole reason for living. And, you can't keep track of all of that stuff, because you're not just going to be 2 or 3 incarnations and now you're brilliant. You know everything. You're going to do this thousands of times. So
Yeah, you've been through this thousands of times. Stew on that for a moment. And again, this connects with what we've talked about with Michael Newton and other past life regression therapists, and life between lives accounts, pre-birth memories, all this stuff. It connects in one big colossal deception. Okay? We're being had, my friends. Some have a hard time dealing with that. I had a hard time dealing with that. But the data points, the information across all sorts of experiencer types collide and clash with one another to show a very clear narrative of deception. I'm sorry. I wish the news was better. I really do. But this is what we're dealing with. All right? 60,000 children. You've had 60,000 children. When is enough enough? How much justification can you provide, or anyone provide, for having to reincarnate that many times? Even if you're averaging 3 kids in incarnation, does that make sense to you? Does that number justify anything in any sane manner whatsoever? Does that mean that perhaps maybe you had a good run at it this life, but that doesn't guarantee that that's what's going to happen in your next life, or what's happened in your previous lives, because you don't know. I don't know. We all don't know, right? We're memory wiped, all right? There is a clear tool of deception that they have and they implement on us based on our buying into the belief systems that are sold here. It's so screwed up, so convoluted, and yet most are worried about who's going to win the presidential election. Most are worried about, what's going to happen with this or what's going to happen with that, or that there's all these identity politics and whatever, right? They throw all the distractions out there. All of the distractions out there, and all of them are designed to make sure that they don't cost the system a dime. Everything is based on identity, right? So our lives, the masses' lives, the collective's lives don't improve here ever because they're not supposed to. And then you have all of these programs running from cradle to grave. And all the Matrix wants is for you to fall into this box, into that box, into this box. And even if you move out of one box and move towards other boxes, all it cares about is keeping you in those predefined boxes of belief. For instance, the Super Bowl tonight. Now, I saw some comments, and, I get it. Like, you have friends or family, you all get together and have a good time. That's awesome, right? I hope you had a good time, or I hope you enjoyed yourselves, right? That's important. That's not to take away that you shouldn't have a good time and enjoy yourself, because you surely should. But it's just an example that I'm bringing up today of how the manipulation continues and is ongoing. That's all. I think everyone, whatever you find enjoyable and loving and helpful in life, and, getting together with friends and family, please do it. Don't shut yourself off completely from everything. That's just not the answer, okay? The time to fully move on is leading up to and at the time of natural death. But until that time comes, enjoy yourself. Make the best of it, and get through your day to day with the minimal amount of suffering and minimal amount of loosh being provided to the system, whether it's in the form of work or whatever it may be, right? Easier said than done sometimes, but, it really is like you're walking the tightrope in the middle and just trying to do the best you can. And that's all we can do, right? But don't let it get to the point where it's like eating you alive and controlling every bit of your movements and all that stuff. That's when it gets toxic and dangerous.
So now you're brilliant. You know everything. You're going to do this thousands of times. So you need to let go of the past.
You're going to do this thousands of times.
Everything. You're going to do this thousands of times. So you need to let go of the past. Start out with an authentic expression of who you are. Then you have authentic choices, and you can learn something from an authentic choice. You can't game the system because you don't have any information to game it with. So that's why there's no user's manual. That we don't understand all this when we come back.
There's no user manual, and that's why we don't understand when we come back. See, that's what I talk about all the time. There's no guidebook. There's no nothing that we come here with to even give us. It's not even like there is not even the slightest hint of what's going on or what our purpose is. Nothing. How is that not a red flag for most people who go through this existence? And then we talk about past lives, right? If you can go out and get your regression, your past life regression or life between lives, or have some profound realization that you've been here before, well, the question is that information sufficient for you? I've had so many comments We're like, oh, well, you know, I've had a regression and I've realized it doesn't matter. 5, 10, 15 lifetimes, I've tapped into all of them. What does that mean in the end? How much are you truly gaining from that? How much do you truly comprehend and understand from all of that? I feel like it's some of it could be interesting, right? Invaluable to an extent, but that doesn't make it the end all be all. It doesn't make it king or queen of like all of the information of all information. The point is what Tom's saying is very true. Most of us come here with a very, very limited or actually the bulk of us come here with zero memory, zero recollection. And if there is some sort of memory that's occurring, it's when we are in a different brainwave state from birth to age 6 or 7, because we're in a completely different brain state, right? Meditative state, alpha state. Okay? So, again, I ask, does this make sense? Is this something that you want to throw out there and hedge your existence on? And the only thing I say is like, hey, stand up for your sovereignty, right? Stand up for you. Take back control of you. Take back, we each have to take back control of ourselves as individuals instead of banking on that what Tom and all these other experiencers or researchers are talking about as fact. The amount of blind belief that occurs that everything is as advertised and correct is astounding. It's absolutely mind-blowing. How can someone not question what's happening here and say it with a serious face? Say it openly. And not see that something is clearly wrong with what's happening in the experience of life as being a human being. Something is seriously wrong. Something doesn't make sense. And there isn't just like, look, if there was just like a few examples, this channel wouldn't exist. There are endless examples of why things are so screwed up and don't make sense. Endless. But yet, it's, I think it's our coping mechanism that we want to feel that what's happening out there is explainable and that there's some sort of quote unquote cosmic order or understanding about all of this. It literally is a coping mechanism. And for some reason, we need to accomplish that or reconcile with that. And I think most of the time we do. I've been there. I'll freely admit that I've been there multiple times where, like you don't want to confront the horrors of the world. You don't want to think that it could be some big, deep deception. I mean, I was lost for so long, guys. So lost. I was a fuck up. Really was. But none of it ever made sense. Don't you think you all just deserve better? Don't you think you all just deserve to put this theory to the test and really put it under a microscope and say, hey, something's fucking wrong here. Something doesn't make sense. Or a lot of it doesn't make sense. It deserves scrutiny. It requires scrutiny. I just I feel that so many more deserve to investigate this realm and look at it for what it is. Experiencer cases open up the gates in such a massive way. They really do. And most ignore it. Most don't. Most buy it as advertised, like I did. Again, I did it for a number of years. You know what really fires me up? Like a lot of my early videos, and some of you may be new or otherwise on the fence. Like, and I'm not gonna ramble on too much more, but like in my earlier videos, like you probably heard me a lot more filled with anger, right? And it was me trying to wrestle with the acceptance of this stuff, even though I had accepted it and was in tune with what was going on for a number of years. It was difficult, and I was pissed, and I'm not even, I can't even say I'm pissed. It's about the atrocities that happen here. I'm upset about the things that occur here, the things that are allowed to happen here. There are so many examples. I'm not even going to say them out loud, but all of you know what I'm talking about, right? What happens out there is disgusting. And it kills me inside. Absolutely kills me. And there will come a day when I'll share more about what I've been through, but it's just not right. It's just not right. And yet this place is just like excuses. I'm so sick of the fucking excuses. Rationalizing the insane asylum that we're living in. Anyways, I'm sorry.
There's no, that we don't understand all this when we come back. It's better that we don't. We're more authentic and we have a higher probability of success if we just come in, and we have to make choices that express who we are, and then we have to live with those consequences. So one other thing I'd say about...
What about the life script, Tom? Don't bring up the life script, how things are pre-planned ahead of time, and unless you wake up and realize who and what you are, and that the life scripts are even something that exists, you don't know, and you're basically an automaton. What about that, Tom? Convenient information that is left out.
And then we have to live with those consequences.
Live with them.
One other thing I'd say about that if you are growing up, lowering your entropy, you tend to have a happy life. You tend to find satisfaction, peace. Your life is very good. You smile a lot. If you are not growing up, if you are mostly in the fear category and self-centered and fearful, your life is miserable. It's always a struggle. Everything seems to go wrong. There's always the next hurdle that's blocking you, that's in front of you. You blame everything on everybody else except yourself. That's the life you live, and it's miserable. It's painful. So it's in everybody's interest to actually try, to level up in this game by being kind and being helpful and being caring and getting rid of that self-centered stuff. Get rid of that ego that's all about you.
Yeah, it's but like taking away the ego, right? Like there's this whole thing with non-duality and all that stuff. I think if you're here, this is my opinion. I know there's a whole segment of individuals out there who will listen to this and say, "Oh, he's full of shit," blah blah. Whatever, fine. You know, like we all have our opinions, right? But, and I respect anyone's opinion, but I don't think the ego is capable of being 100% removed while you're here. I just don't. Now, of course, you can be familiar and in check with what your ego is and how it comes across to others. But what's wrong with the sovereign direction? I feel like it's like a double-edged sword, what Tom talks about. Like, I think sovereignty, liberation, non-interference, all that stuff, that's not ego. That's just you standing up for yourself and hoping that your direction as a creator being, not hoping, but intending that your path forward for liberation is going to be exactly as you want, because you are a creator being. And that we've been hoodwinked and on so many different levels.
By being kind and being helpful and being caring.
You should
and
be kind
getting
and
rid of that
helpful
self-centered.
and respectful, right? You should be. We all should be. That's just being a nice individual. That's not like some diamond quality. Like, that just should be you because that's who you want to be. That's what's right. That's what's empathetic towards others and what they are going through.
Stuff. Get rid of that ego that's all about you. Make it about other people. Love is about other. Fear is
Attachments. Make everything about attachments. See, like, it sounds heartless when I'm talking about it, right? I could just imagine how many would tune in at this moment and be like, oh, fuck this guy. You know, me specifically, not Tom. But they would say, oh, screw this guy. Like, he's talking about being selfish. No, it's about protecting ourselves. That doesn't mean you can't be a good individual while you're here and reach out to individuals who also need help or assistance and just doing the right thing because you want to do it. Versus in the afterlife, when there is a clear mechanical process that is designed to manipulate and deceive. Okay? See, there are two different things going on. While you're here in human form, do what you got to do. Be nice to others. Treat others the way you want to be treated. But when it comes to your afterlife, be selfish. Be very selfish. And think about you as an individual. Because I really, truly believe in the depths of my being that this is an individual journey. You don't have any requirements or obligation to do anything beyond anything once you leave here, except liberate yourself. Period. The end. You don't owe this realm or this world or I hate to say it, your loved ones, anything. The best you can do, the most help you can provide is in this moment, right here, right now, while you're here. Not when you've gone, not when you've moved on, not when you're still being a pawn of the matrix and believing what it's selling. Now, in the here and now, that's when we can all do good. But yet, for some reason, it's twisted and convoluted in that, like, these two things are adjacent and linked to one another, when all it's showing is pure attachment. Like, you're not ready to move on. If you think that, like, you need to do this or that or this or that for that one or this one, and then reincarnate with all of your memories erased. See, like, that's a big leap. That's a huge leap. That's a massive disconnection. Like, that's nonsensical. But for some reason, if you frame it in a certain way and put it into the New Age construct and New Age concepts, then everything is just no big deal. It's all good.
It's about self. So
Within that,
that's death.
within that goal-directed framework, where you're constantly coming back in order to fulfill this, what happens when you actually truly do fulfill that and you reach that lowest entropic state where the person is now embodies love in the sense that you're talking about?
Well, there's a couple of issues here. One, it's true that the more you evolve, the easier it is to evolve more. So the steps you take tend to be bigger and bigger. So you get there faster and faster as time goes on. On the other hand, on the other side of that coin is that the changes that you make are changes really of refinement. You know, if you're pretty good and you've lost all those crass, things, you stop, killing people, you stop beating your children, and your wife, you stop kicking the dog, if you've kind of gotten over all those crass things, well, now you're refining something that is already pretty good. And those refinements come in smaller and smaller increments. So it's easier to learn more, but what you're learning more now has to do with refining. You're trying to lower entropy. Well, one of the facts of life is entropy never goes to zero. You can't ever get it to zero. You can approach zero. You can get asymptotic to zero in the math language, but you never actually get to zero. And you have to always work on it, because if
you have to always work on it. See, it's like this is hopelessness in a bottle. This is taking your self-empowerment, sticking a big old fat knife in your gut and saying, no, you have no control. You have all the control. And this is Tom Campbell, someone who was side by side with Bob Monroe for years at the Monroe Institute. And he is peddling a narrative that is based in hopelessness, that you aren't a creator being. You aren't some sort of powerful being that is capable of using your intention to make up your own decisions. No. He's trying to tell you how to live, how to go through existence, and come back here. That's what he's saying. I'm trying to be kind. I'm trying to be nice. But you know what, Tom? The hopelessness narrative, no thank you.
If you don't put effort in to work on it, if there's no energy put in, then you start to backslide. Entropy just starts to rise up because you're not putting the effort to keep it down. That's the second law of thermodynamics, that systems that are not reversible,
thermodynamics that has something to do with the earth realm. Who's to say it has anything to do with the overall existence of who and what we are beyond the matrix? See, this is confined, limited thinking, refusing to think bigger in general, right? Big problem. Big problem. Like, I think it's important for us to think outside the box, think bigger, stop just allowing ourselves to condense ourselves to this limited way of thinking and how reality is, whether it's in relation to the earth realm or outside of here, in the astral. It's so limiting. You can go tonight and prove yourself as a creator being by going outside the body, if you're fortunate enough to experience it. But if you put enough time into it, I promise eventually you'll get there. It may take some time, but you'll eventually be able to leave the body and experience for yourself that you are in fact the creator being and that your intention is king. And even Tom admits that intention is everything. And isn't that interesting that even Tom will make an admission like that, but still whittle you and I and everyone listening here today down to the slave class type of thinking. Okay? That's where the problem comes in, right? He'll admit certain things, share certain things, and they'll be true, but then he'll leave out key moments, key important things that everyone should know. Everyone should be aware of. Why is that? Why? I have my suspicions and about him and just the Monroe Institute in general and all that stuff, but make of it what you will. I won't comment any further on that one.
But the systems that are not reversible, systems that evolve and move and change, if there's no energy put into them, they automatically decay. Everything has a shelf life. Everything decays. Even a block of steel, if you wait long enough, it'll evaporate. That steel block will get smaller and smaller and smaller until it's gone, just like an ice cube. You put an ice cube in a freezer and you let it sit there long enough, the ice cube's gone. It sublimates into water vapor. That's just because water vapor is a higher entropy state than ice. So that's just the nature of reality, and it's the nature of consciousness as well. So you have to always be putting effort in. So you never get to the point where you say, I'm done. I've gotten here. My entropy is really, really low. I can't lower it much more except by tiny increments. So I quit. Well, as soon as you quit, your entropy starts going up again. Your ego starts getting bigger. You start feeling good about yourself. Oh, I made it to the top. I'm better than all those other people. You say, no, that's just ego talking.
See, I don't think it's ego at all. I think it's just common sense. I think it's like, hey, I don't want to come back here. It's that simple. I don't ever want to come back and deal with this bullshit again. Period. The end. I don't ever want to be in a human meat suit again. Period. The end. It's that simple. And I don't want anything to do with any sort of system that is trying to, stomp its foot on my being, my essence. That's it. It's that simple. Again, I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. But my exit plan at the time of natural death is simple. Since we are all creator beings, since we all are capable of using our intention for whatever we wish and making it so, and can prove as such by going outside the body, it tends to lend a lot of credence that if we stand up for ourselves and say, hey, I'm not going to comply, I'm not going to interact with you, I'm going to shield myself with my intention for non-interference, basically, again, protecting yourself, sovereignty, liberation, the creation of our own realm that is outside of this entire matrix construct, not just Earth, the entire system, into a realm of our own creation, which is impenetrable. That seems to be not far-fetched. It seems to be a very high probability of success based on what you can experience, what I've experienced outside the body, how you can rid entities, you can change scenery, realms within an instant of your intention being telepathically communicated, I guess you can say, right? Your intention. It's that simple, right? But yet, for some reason, this place loves to make us feel like we are worthless or that we're powerless. And so does the astral realm. And there's a whole setup out there designed to aid in you not getting outside the body. Red flag after red flag. I mean, just the construct of this place. The construct of the human meat suit. We can go on and on and on until the cows come home. But there are so many examples. And yet here we have Tom Campbell saying, you know, hey, there's a reason for it. There's a reason why you've had 60,000 children in past lifetimes. 60,000, he said. 60,000. Cut it in half. So let's just say 30,000. Let's just say 10,000. Does that seem logical to you? Does that seem like the only way for spiritual growth is to come back here and be memory wiped? Does that make any sense to anyone? Because it sure as hell shouldn't. None of what happens here on Earth makes sense. None of what happens in the astral makes sense because it's contradictive to what's happening here. Everything flies in the face of sanity, understanding, and any sort of rationality. None of it makes sense. But yet there are consistent data patterns that are showing it has nothing to do with New Age belief. It has nothing to do with, you know, like some sort of BS that I made up. No, these are consistent data patterns that show themselves over and over and over and over again, so much so that they're sickening, right? They may be sickening, but they're also showing us what's really going on. And that there is a certain narrative being pushed on everybody to believe a certain thing so that the entire goal of this system is to keep you believing it, to keep you, everyone here listening and watching, to believe in a certain narrative so that we continue to reincarnate and be memory wiped in the process. If you think that coming here lifetime after lifetime with no recollection of where you came from, why you are here, where you are going, is logical in any sense of the word, then you're watching the wrong channel. Or perhaps, you just got to do your own research or plow through some of the stuff talked about on this channel. But I think the days of making excuses for what's happening here has to be coming to a close. And I think that's why perhaps things may be wrapping up in certain portions of the world, but that's a conversation for another day. I'm kind of on a tangent tonight because, even though we can call that the soul trap is quote unquote a theory, there is so much freaking evidence that this is one big fat deception. It's not even funny. I mean, it borders on. It's nuts how much evidence is in support of this whole thing being one big fat deception. And nobody can convince me different. There's just way too much. Way, way, way too much. And you know what? There's like I'm sorry, I'm going to say just a few more things and we'll move on and we're going to wrap things up for the night. And then I'll be over on the Truth in Gaming channel. But there's a lot of individuals out there who have just kind of came out of nowhere and decided to insert themselves in this topic. And they're not concentrating on empowering you. They're, in fact, the opposite. They're all about disempowering you, making you feel like you don't hold all the cards, that your intention means nothing. Or perhaps they're just leaving it out completely, which should be a red flag in and of itself, right? Anyways, there's quite a few out there now that are just like, oh, the soul trap as a topic, or the Matrix reincarnation soul trap is picked up as a topic, and they're just kind of, they were there and or they just came along and decided to kind of hang on the topic and muddy the waters, right? for whatever reason that may be. Doesn't matter. But they're muddying the waters, and most of them are saying, "Oh, we'll give you the secrets on how to exit the Matrix for, if you join this class, or if you do this or you do that." I've given the answer on this channel month after month, year after year, the same answer every time. You don't need to pay $40 or $50 for a class, or $100 or $200 or buy this or buy that. You don't. The answer is simple. It's the same thing every single time we talk about it. It's non-interference, which is shielding yourself through intention. The intention, again, for sovereignty, liberation, and outside the entire Matrix system, to create your own impenetrable realm and just see what happens, okay? I don't pretend to have the answers beyond that. I don't pretend that even what I talk about is in fact the answer, but I'm pretty damn confident, all right? But I'm also not the type of guy who's going to sit here and say, "Oh, well, I have all the answers to this or that." No. Like, I try to go with data patterns that are consistent and very clear, and say to you guys, "Hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is, and when I have a theory, or when I'm, there's something that I'm not necessarily sure about, or have something to back it up with 100%, I will tell you. I'll tell you every single time. I'm not just going to spit something out and say, "Oh, this is the way it is." No, I'm going to say, "I suspect that such and such is a reason for such and such." Okay? And then I'll say, well, there's consistent data patterns, and sometimes if there are percentages available, I'll provide those through some of the longtime researchers that are out there in these topics, and provide them. There's a difference, right? And then you have clowns out there talking about the whole alien thing. The whole alien thing is out of control, right? And some may listen to what I'm saying and bail right away. It's like, "Oh, well, because he's dismissing the whole alien thing, I'm out of here." I'm sorry, but the alien thing is overblown. There's a huge psyop behind it. And that's just the truth of the matter. What I don't understand is how so many can connect with the information that something's wrong here, that there is some sort of soul trap system going on here. But yet, when it comes to calling out the whole alien bullshit, the extraterrestrial narrative that's out there, it's like, "Oh my God, he said aliens are bullshit. He said extraterrestrials are bullshit," or blah, 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 right? It's like, for some reason, that narrative, or that fact, I should say, I'm sorry, that there is a deception in this realm being perpetrated on all of us about quote unquote aliens, and everyone, you'll just get a bunch of people bail. "Oh, here's a prime example. Here's a prime example. 10 people just left." And I don't care about how many people are watching. I really don't. But it's interesting because when you start talking about these things, cognitive dissonance kicks in high gear. And we just lost. As soon as I said aliens are bullshit, over 10 people left. That was exactly proving my point. Again, I don't know everything. I think, and see, this is the part they missed out on. I think the whole alien thing, or entity, whatever you want to call them, they are part of the very fabric of this realm. They are part of the very control system of this realm. They don't come from other planets, quote unquote. They don't come from outer space, quote unquote. No. They are here, and part of the very fabric of this realm, part of the control system. They're just other entities, other beings, other aspects of the control system that are being perpetrated and sent out to do whatever they have to do to keep humanity in line. That's my opinion, okay? And I know a lot of people don't like that. Even, I'm sure, when when Dan and I were talking about the whole Anunnaki thing, like, and just putting Sitchin on blast, right? All that stuff. I'm sure a lot of people don't like that. And if I went back, I'm sure there'd be a big dip as soon as we started talking shit about Sitchin. But yet the evidence is there. Some prefer the fantasy. Some prefer the truth-ertainment. And there are so many channels covering the soul trap right now that are aligning with that. The truth-ertainment. There's a reason why there are only 2 individuals that I recommend on this channel over and over and over and over and over again. That's Dan from OverWatchProject.com, OverWatchChannel, and Wayne Bush at TrickedByTheLight.com. And I think his YouTube channel, it's Sovereign Beings or Sovereign. I feel bad. He hasn't. Hold on. Can one of you pop the name of the channel? I can't believe I'm having a mind blank with this. Oh my God. Sovereign Spirit. That's it. Thank you, Paris. Sovereign Spirit. Sovereign Spirits. Yeah, that's it. Sovereign Spirits. So check out Wayne Bush and Julie at Sovereign Spirits, and Wayne Bush's channel at trickedbythelight.com. And then, of course, Dan at OverWatchProject.com and OverWatchChannel on YouTube, Overwatch Project on Odysee. Okay, anyways, I'm sorry, but, sometimes, like, one last thing I'll say. I'm sorry, I know I'm ranting a lot, but, like, some of it's so infuriating. Like, remote viewing. Let me just say this. I believe remote viewing is a thing. I believe it's a real way to potentially get some accurate information. Keyword, some accurate information. But overall, what is out there in relation to the soul trap, and I'm literally saying all of it. All of it is complete and utter horseshit. And I'm not going to name channels. I'm not going to put anyone on blast. But all of it is bullshit. Every last bit of it. One of them who is out there peddling this stuff is a complete opportunist. He's been there for decades, all right? And I'm not going to say his name, all right? But he's supposedly a doctor, okay? Anyways, he's been around so long that he put out some sort of, I think he went on radio. I don't remember exactly what happened, but this was when the Heaven's Gate, any of you remember the Heaven's Gate cult? Anyways, he put out that the Heaven's Gate cult with what they were saying was accurate. He was saying, oh my God, according to my remote viewing, that everything that is coming out of the Heaven's Gate cult is accurate. I kid you not, he said that. Dr. Someone. All right? And they all killed themselves. All right? Nothing came, nothing happened. There is an endless list of him being debunked based on his quote-unquote verifiable remote viewing sessions. the problem is that most people don't know about him. They haven't looked into his past, or maybe they haven't been around as long, or maybe they're younger or something, or they're just finding out certain truths. And he puts on a very convincing presentation, along with who he, I think, openly admitted at least a number of times that, you know, he hires actors to present the information. You know, basically, women with, you know, I'm not going to say it, but, you know, they look a certain way that are appealing to a lot of men, right? You know, it's truthertainment. Truthertainment. There's nothing to it. And if it's amazing how there are just a handful of this whole remote viewing crowd who is just completely, I'm sorry, I know I'm ranting, but this is just what it's led to. But there's a whole section of this truthertainment with remote viewing that is complete garbage. And there's no data patterns. None. There's nothing to be gained from those areas. Remote viewing is way behind. Again, do I think it's all BS? No, I don't. I think there is absolutely some legitimacy to everything related to it. I've even tried it and gone to a couple courses and stuff like that. There's definitely something to it. But with that being said, that doesn't mean that there are data patterns to support any sort of consistency that can be taken seriously in relation to the overall fabric of reality and the whole soul trap thing in general, right? It's all tossed out. It would, like, in order for the remote viewing communities to have any sort of semblance of standing in relation to the soul trap, there would need to be a lot of them. There would need to be a lot of them. There would need to be some sort of consistency that's continually coming out amongst a bunch of different groups. And it's just not happening. All right. There's just a small, like a handful of individuals out there that are discussing that topic. And they're just attaching themselves because the soul trap is becoming more and more of interest to individuals, and rightfully so. But they're toxic infiltrators, all designed to be there to extract the dollar out of you. Okay? I've said over and over and over on this channel that nothing of importance that's meaningful, that's essential to know, will ever be sold at a price. Ever. Nothing will be behind a paywall in exchange for money. I share anything that's important here free of charge every time, because all I care about is everyone pursuing their paths to liberation and empowering themselves. Do I have memberships? Yeah. If you want some extra content each month, we do a members live stream on Odysee and YouTube at the last Sunday of every month. And there's a couple years worth of videos there. And, you know, I do put a lot of effort into those because it's an equal exchange of energy, right? But am I ever going to withhold information and not give it to someone or you guys behind a paywall? No chance in hell. I think it's important, and I've said this from day one on my channel, that everyone should do their own research. No one should just blindly believe what I'm saying, because, yeah, maybe like stick around and listen to what I'm saying and see the patterns and kind of get in tune with what I'm kind of pointing out. But then, like, if you branch out and do your own research on the side, you're going to see it for yourself and be able to confirm it for yourself and have a more firm inner knowing. And that's what it boils down to. Having that firm inner knowing about who and what you are. And that liberation is possible through your own intention, not some sort of systematic BS that is trying to convince you to do that. You need to go through the Bardo realms, or you need to do this or that. No, it's your intention is king, period, the end, and that's it. And that's where the strong, firm inner knowing comes from. And I think that's really important. Like, ridiculously important. If you're not at that point of the strong, firm inner knowing, then I feel just take your time, right? Do your thing. Like, listen to more experiencer cases. Listen to some of what's shared here or on Dan's channel or Wayne's channel. Like, just, or my interviews with both of them, right? Like, or going through all sorts of different experiencer types, like to get yourself familiar, like working on having some out-of-body experiences and some lucid dreaming and stuff like that, right? Those small, meditating, these small things can work wonders for you and prove without a doubt that what I'm talking about here is true and factual. And then you look at things like how there's a whole system in play with a love bomb at the light, and how clearly we see, like if you watch the stream before this about the 16 or 15 cases of the love bomb, we hear over and over and over, and we've heard it in so many other cases, how there's just this mass manipulation, like how the love experienced at the light cannot be compared to what is experienced on Earth. Over and over and over again. I mean, literally, I could just play a broken record of it. All these experiencers, not all, but a large portion of these experiencers say that. High percentage. So what we're dealing with again is like some sort of astral light love bomb drug dealer, right? And that's provable. Everyone, I'm saying it. You can believe it or you can't, but if you go out and research it, you'll see it for yourself. It's all there. There's a clear manipulative tactic going on that doesn't align with what's happening here, but yet it's consistent with what experiences are telling us. So why is that? Because we're deceived here on a mass scale because we are limited in our reception about who and what we are just by the very fabric of the reality and the meat suit itself. And then when you leave the body, they have to go as far as to love bomb you and I and everyone here, because we've all clearly been through it who knows how many times, enough to the fact that we're here today and questioning this whole experience. And it just doesn't match. It claims to be all about love. What Tom Campbell says is that everything's about love, when it's clearly diametrically opposed to what's actually happening here. What controls this place? What continues to allow the atrocities to happen? The poor design of the meat suit, the human body. It's a piss poor design. It's horrible. And yet, for some reason, so many like to call it a temple. Like a sacred temple. Like your human body is a sacred temple. Are you fucking kidding me? Those who say that got some major screw looses. I mean, holy shit. Anyways, I ranted for way too long.
That's not high quality. High quality, you don't put yourself above others. You don't look down on other people. You're not condescending. All that's
guys.
Low quality, not high quality. So what you do instead is you decide that, well, what can I do to help? It's not just about me. You see, if it's just about you and you've just been working on lowering your entropy and now you got it really low, yay me, well, that's all about you. What have you given back? How have you helped? How have you helped everybody else succeed? Oh, I haven't. It's just all been about me. Well, then you're not that grown up. You see, you just think you're that grown up. If it's all about
How dare you think in a sovereign attitude? You think you're grown up, but you're not. You're not.
then you're not that grown up. You see, you just think you're that grown up. If it's all about you, then you've got a lot to learn yet.
Yeah, it's all about liberation, baby. Liberation highway via sovereignty and intention.
So that's the point. So there really is no,
That's the point. See, he agrees with me. See?
you've got a lot to learn yet.
No.
So that's the point. So there really
You
is
need to
no
learn.
end. You always can be helpful to others.
Yeah,
You can
fair enough.
always incarnate back here in a situation, and you don't have to be a big guru or lead the masses to salvation or
So
something.
sickening.
All you have to be is just a good person.
Yeah, you can reincarnate here. All you have to do is just be a good person and go through absolute hell while you're here. No big deal. It's fine. Because you owe it to everybody else. You owe it to the earth to reincarnate here and be whatever you are, whether you're some sort of guru or not a guru. Doesn't matter. You should just be reincarnated here, deal with all the bullshit, deal with time and everything that goes on here. And because you just should. All right, you should.
Just somebody.
Stop being selfish, guys. Stop being selfish. See how manipulative this stuff is? It drives me out of my mind to hear this type of stuff. It's so toxic and messed up.
Somebody who's helpful and caring and happy and smiles. Just be a low entropy. Somebody who's helpful and caring and happy and smiles. Just be a low entropy person, because just by being that way, you'll help other people become that way. You will be a good example, and people around you they'll feel better. When they're hanging out with you, they all kind of feel better than.
But that doesn't mean I have to continually reincarnate, Tom. That's the difference. I'm done with it. I'm done. It's over. It's over, Johnny.
Not. So you're a force to help them grow up. So you come back.
I think it's on them to grow up. We can do good and help others while we're here and be kind and respectful and compassionate and empathetic. Sure, I'm all down with that. That's awesome. But at some point when you realize about who and what you are and that you do not need to come back here because you are a creator being, that's the difference, Tom. That's the difference. It doesn't mean you have to come back here and suffer another round of this bullshit.
Back and be part of the solution,
wiped.
Not part of the problem. So
how about the solution be to just stop the entire thing, Tom? How about that?
Is no end to it. Now, a lot of the religious theologies always, they have ends to it, because otherwise it's a hard sell. If you tell people, well, what's the point, they say, and say, well, so you can be helpful to others. Well, when do I graduate? When do I get done? And if you say, never, you're doing this forever, because, you're an information system, and we can always get.
Look at this guy on the right. Yeah, he makes sense. He makes so much sense. Tom is just speaking so much
this
truth
forever
right
because,
now.
you're an information system,
forever.
And we can always.
Forever. Just never stop incarnating. Forever.
Better. If just you and 10 people and you all care for each other, that's nice, but you need to care for everybody on the planet and all the dogs and cats
Unbelievable.
too, and everything. You need to take care of the planet and its environment. There's lots of things that are positive that you need to learn to do. So.
Okay. So not only do you have to help others, but you have to help somehow clean up the environment and clean up this whole mess that happens to put a parasitic system of pollution and deception and toxicity inside of it that nobody here can possibly control. Wake up, Tom. You're delusional. You're not thinking clearly in this type of mindset. You're just not. If you think, or anyone here thinks, that there can be some sort of mass change for the better and overtake the deceptive, toxic, parasitic powers that actually run this place, then it's the end of the conversation, because it's not logical. It's not rooted in any sort of sanity, Tom.
There's no end to that. You can always come back and teach and be helpful.
Yeah.
Well, that's a hard sell. Why would somebody want to pay their money into that collection plate? When the other collection plate says, oh yeah, when you die, if you do everything right and keep that collection plate full, you'll go to heaven, and that's it. You'll just be happy and be perfectly, content forever. Well, that's a easier sell. Oh, that sounds good. What, I got to donate a lot of money to the church and I'm in forever. Or like in Buddhism, you return to the Godhead. Okay, you go up, but you get to the point that then you just become a part of God. And that's it. But you see, that's contrary to what.
And see, this is why I talk about Buddhism regularly. Often, well, not regularly, but off and on. I mean, I went through my phases. I went through Tibetan Buddhism, which was an incredible, wild journey. And then I went through Zen Buddhism. I almost became a Zen Buddhist monk. And, I've talked about that before, but and I found there's a tremendous amount of value and a lot of good stuff that can be like taken from those teachings. I'm not shitting you when I say that. I think there is absolutely a lot of value to be taken from some of those teachings, but selectively. Going with the Godhead, or quote unquote merging with the Godhead, is why I talk about what I talk about, because it's a roadblock. It's designed to keep us quarantined and stuck within this existence, stuck within the overall matrix system. We talk about all the time how these religions, these philosophies, Hinduism, Buddhism, Gnosticism, all different, these different types of things, right, that are out there. And they tell you truth, massive truth. Ask yourself, why do these truths exist? Why are they there? Because they know individuals like you and I are going to ask the big questions and say, something's not right. I want to liberate myself. I want to make sure that I'm not going to come back here, or that I'm not going to have to deal with this again. And yet there's a whole set of narratives, a whole set of teachings and scriptures and ancient scriptures that are out there designed to tell you what to do. You have to go through all the Bardo realms. And then maybe, just maybe, if you're a good boy or a good girl enough, then perhaps you'll achieve liberation. But meanwhile, all you're doing is just catering to the illusions that it was selling you the whole time. This is the problem. See, this is how well thought out and deceptive and screwed up this system is. They'll lead you to the trough, but they'll knock you out at the knees before you dip your head down to get the water. This is how deep it goes, my friends. They have thought of almost everything except sharing that you are a sovereign being, except sharing that your intention is king or queen, take away the sexes, whatever, as a true essence being. They leave that part out. And that's the most important part. That you have full control of this, as long as you realize and are aware of the deceptive techniques that are being utilized in this whole shit show. But if you don't have a realization of what's going on, then it's going to win. That's the screwed up part. And that's where finding that firm inner knowing is so important. And sticking with everything that's talked about here and elsewhere about the topic, and doing your own research. It's so important to get to that crucial inner knowing, so that what if mentality isn't even a thought in your mind.
what the larger consciousness did in the first place. It had to break itself up into pieces so that there were these pieces that, interacted with each other. The idea, everybody lowers their entropy, everybody gets up, everybody returns to the Godhead, then what do you have? You've just moved backwards, a long way backwards. Now you have one chunk of consciousness where all the pieces have returned. Well, it's very limited. It'll start to de-evolve rather quickly. The point is that you've got billions of pieces that all have to learn to work together, cooperative and caring for everybody. Well, that's a harder thing to do, you see, and one monolithic thing can't do that. It can just kind of care for itself, but that's kind of self-focused, Caring for others is a tough thing when you're the only thing around. So you end up de-evolving. So that's really headed in the wrong direction. So I don't think that the joining the Godhead is really the point, unless the larger system has way too many IUCs out there, and it'd like to cut the number down. The number of seats in the game has gotten too large. I'd like to cut some down. Then some of those might just be absorbed back into the LCS, yes, but not in general. That's not the way that it's going to be. That's not the point. Is not to go up and become part of the deity. It's to keep helping others. See, others. Unless you're the last one, everybody else has succeeded, and you're the last one. But it's not going to be that way. There's always new coming in at the bottom. People are having babies. New avatars are all the time.
Yeah, and see, like, there's noobs coming in here all the time. See, it's a never-ending cycle of what's going to occur. Doesn't matter. It's you can't win. You can't fight the entire thing and expect to be the last man or woman or true essence being standing. This place, listen, we've all come here at some point, in my opinion, under our own free will. Some may disagree with that, right? We may have even been deceived, right? Or not deceived, but lured into here. Or perhaps even flipped the coin and said, hey, you want a crazy place to go? Go to Earth, and flip a coin, and, heads is you're going and tails is you're not. You want to go experience craziness and lose yourself? This is the place to go, right? Who knows, right? I think we're naturally curious. As creator beings, I think we're naturally curious about existence and about different realms and experience and all that stuff. And I think that's a more probable reason why we got here. Do I know that for certain? No. But I do know that we're sovereign. I do know that we're true essence beings. We're eternal, and that we're capable of using our intention to control the show, so to say, control our existence about what we choose or not choose to do. But once you kind of get into the system, or once we get into this whole monotonous system and lose ourselves, well, that's something else entirely. It's like, just imagine you're pulling up to the gates, right? You're pulling up to the gates and there's a door there. And before you can go through that door, there's like a list of rules and conditions that apply for entering and going into and through that door and into these realms that are part of, quote unquote, the overall matrix system. That's what I think happens. Now, could there be some sort of energy or lure that's out there in the form of energy that's appealing or perhaps maybe even addictive to get us here? Maybe. I don't discount that at all. But was our curiosity, if that's true, was our curiosity part of that, right? Like if we're somehow being lured in because of the appeal for something like that, then our curiosity got the best of us. I mean, I know I'm a curious individual. I like to experience and look into all sorts of different things, right? So, like, for me personally, it makes, this is just for me. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I'm very curious about all sorts of different things and different experiences and just life and everything, right? I'm just curious about things. And so I could see myself kind of finding some sort of appeal to coming to a place where where I'm already aware that I'm an eternal being, and there is this realm or realms or matrix of realms that offers me an experience where I can forget all that and not realize that I'm an eternal being. I can see myself personally falling for something like that. I can. I think curiosity, like that quote, curiosity killed the cat, right? I think being a curious being about what's possible or what other different types of experiences we can have as eternal beings, so much is probably on the table about what we can do, because we know we're eternal beings. We know we can't die or this or that, and we know we can go and experience different things. And perhaps the Earth realm or the overall matrix system in general is part of that. I don't know. I'm just saying that seems to be highly, highly, highly probable. And so we kind of got stuck inside the system, not knowing how deep and how crazy and how whacked out it can get, and how deceptive and how parasitic it could be. But once you're here and agreed to this memory wipe and continue to experience that lifetime after lifetime, well, we lose ourselves and fall into this cycle of the river of forgetfulness. So that's my opinion of what I think's going on initially when we get here. But to branch off from that, that's why we need to think bigger and stronger, be more productive, and say, hey, be okay with not knowing, right? I mean, I there was not to drone off too much, but there was an interview I did on a channel a few months back. Someone invited me on. It was interesting conversation, and I think they had asked me, like, so do you think the Anunnaki controls this or something like that, or what do you think controls this? And I said flat out, I don't know. But at the same time, I said I don't know, but I'm going to give you my opinion about what I think is possibly going on. I thought there were two possibilities, but I also prefaced that by saying, like, yeah, these are two possibilities that I think are going on, but perhaps there is probably many other reasons that could be occurring that not necessarily thinking of. And so I laid it out where I thought, one possibility was that there is just like one chief entity involved with this. And then the other one was where I thought there was perhaps a group of entities involved with this. For whatever reason, perhaps they like material existence. They've been in other materialistic realms, or perhaps they're, all about loosh and that there's some sort of benefit to having those types of things going on, where energy is extracted, creator being abilities are extracted, et cetera, et cetera. Like, but I said I didn't know. Like, overall, like, this is just my opinion, because nobody knows, and anyone who makes big claims and says that they do know is full of shit. I think there's a lot of strong possibilities, and some of the data points towards certain things being more possible than others. But at the end of the day, do I know for certain? No. And then there was someone who commented and said, oh, well, this guy's just saying how much he doesn't know. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, it's like if you want a bullshit answer, if you want someone to provide you just a lie, and because it pleases your mind or something. Well, there are many out there who will provide that and you know, say that with full conviction, right? That what they're saying is true, and that this is the way it is, and that the Anunnaki, and that they're mining gold, and yada, 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 and that we're a slave race, blah, blah. Yeah, when we are a slave race. But, you know, Dan and I were talking about earlier about the whole Anunnaki thing and like how there's so much bullshit about that. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, it has nothing, it had like everything I talked about in that interview had nothing to do with the structure of who or not the structure, I'm sorry, the whatever powers are controlling this, because again, we can't know. But instead about talking about the data patterns, and for some reason they picked out that one thing and were like, oh, well, you know, like he says, I don't know about this, I don't know about that, because I said I don't know about a bunch of things, because I don't like to make claims where I don't feel confident. Like, I don't feel like there's data patterns and consistency in the information that I talk about. And I don't know why I'm even mentioning that, but it's the reason. It's like the reason why I'm saying this, I guess, is that there are so many channels out there that you can go and consume and get some individual, some talking point that is going to convince you otherwise, or say it with deep conviction and that they're believable, and they'll just tell you what you want to hear. On my channel, you're not necessarily going to hear what you want to hear. I'm going against the grain in every way, shape, or form, against the New Age, against this, against that. And I'm saying, well, everything kind of points towards a deception, because we're just being kind of bamboozled on some sort of massive degree. Do I claim to know who is at the tippity top of the control mechanisms of all this? No. But what does it matter, right? That's the main point. What does it matter who is in control? It's happening. It is 100% happening. Something really screwed up is going on here. And that's a fact. That's a fact. No one can deny that, or no one can at least deny it or take me off of that way of thinking, because it's clear. It's happening. But who is actually running and doing all this stuff? Who cares? If it's something you can't prove, you're not going to find out. Do you think that type of information is actually going to be even available anyways? It's not. This system is methodical. It's well thought out. It knows what it's doing. And it throws wrench after wrench, deception after deception, in an effort to confuse and divide and conquer every step of the way, lifetime after lifetime. It doesn't need to present itself. And even if it did, it's never going to tell the full truth. But what we do know is that something's rotten. Something is really, really rotten. And a lot of it doesn't make sense. And a lot of it flies in the face of any logic whatsoever. You have one narrative happening where the light is saying, or the astral realm is saying, that everything's about love and light and spiritual growth, and that you need to keep reincarnating, and that there's karma and judgment and sinning, and that there's these soul classes, and that there's pre-birth planning and blah, 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 blah. And then you come down here, and then it's a complete opposite. Again, it proves itself to be a liar. Proves it. There's nothing whatsoever that it says in the astral that makes any sense or aligns with the reality of what's happening on Earth while you're here, or while you're in the human meat suit. Period. But yet, There is consistent data pattern after consistent data pattern across all types of experiencers that shows the same narrative. If that doesn't prove that there is a clear, concise lie and deception going on, I don't know what does. Some like to be pat on the head and say, oh, like everything's going to be okay and blah, blah, and everything will be okay if you take your sovereignty in control and take back yourself and realize about who and what you are. But if you just want to brush this type of information aside and just say, oh, there's nothing to it, there's a lot to it. A lot. And the beauty of living in this lifetime, in this time period, is that we have access to all this information, my friends. Don't let it slip by. Don't let it slip by. I promise you, nobody has to watch my channel whatsoever. Like, all this information's out there. All you need is kind of like the building blocks of what I talk about or what Wayne and Dan talk about, and to see the deception. Like, okay, we'll say this is such and such. This is something you should look out for. Just listen to what they're saying. It's the complete opposite about the reality of what's happening here. But yet it's also a comfort tool. That's the sick part of all of it. There is this crazy comfort, rationalization, explaining this place away through experiencers or through our own experience. I mean, I've had love bomb experiences that lasted for multiple days when I was in Zen Buddhism. And then I had the opposite, where it was like the Dark Night of the Soul, complete horror show, right? I mean, I've experienced it in different states before. But then there's the reality of what's going on here. And that can't be explained away. That's all I'm trying to say, okay? I'll leave the rant there, and we're getting close to wrapping things up, and then I'm going to head on over to the gaming channel. But we'll probably make 2 parts of this, actually, because there's so much to go through. But yeah, we'll hang out for a few more minutes. Please consider hitting the like button if you found this channel and the information shared today helpful. Thank you.
And you need someone needs to, just to keep this virtual reality going, needs to play the part of those avatars, or the system gets stuck playing all of them. Now they're not IUOCs, they're NPCs, non-player characters, because the server is playing the parts of all of those. Well, now the whole system, this whole
the server is playing the parts. The server. So again, what is the server? Who is the server? Who controls the server?
Is playing the parts of all of those. Well, now the whole system, this whole entropy reduction trainer system, is becoming inefficient. It's starting to outlive its usefulness. So I don't think any of that's going to happen. There's always going to be those who aren't as far along as you are. And if you can help them, then if you're grown up, what you want to do is help them. You don't want to quit and go play a harp on a cloud for eternity. You want to be helpful. You want to get back in the game and be part of the solution. That's what you like doing. That's what makes you happy.
So you're incarnated, let's say, and you go through this journey. 2 logical scenarios can arise. One is the information is neither created nor destroyed in that sense. But let's say the information continues. That means you have access to information from the previous avatar's existence. So that opens the door to talking to a past life or seeing a past life, at least.
Right.
And also, the information also can perhaps intrude into the future, perhaps into a near-death experience. How would those 2 things occur?
Well, a near-death, let's just jump to a near-death, and then we'll talk about the data, because now you're touching on this database that I was talking about.
All right, I think what we're going to do is probably hold off on continuing this. We'll get into the NDE part of what Tom has to say, hopefully with Dan. maybe later this week sometime. And I look forward to spending some more time with you and deconstructing all this, because there's a lot to say on it. And I know I kind of ranted, and I'm sorry. But just remember, my friends, you're more than your physical body, as Monroe says. And there's a lot to be learned. There's a lot to explore. There's a lot of data patterns to be recognized. And don't let this place win. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise that you need to reincarnate here, that you need to, for some reason, come back here in any way, shape, or form, or interact with anything. If our loved ones, like we were talking about with Dan earlier, this is the final thoughts, right? If these beings are in fact legitimate, they are our real loved ones, fine. That's fine. Perhaps they are, perhaps they aren't. I don't know, right? My opinion, we just vary on that pretty much. I think that's one of the very few things we vary on. But I think if it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter whether they are who they claim to be or not. They're still lost in the illusion of this place. They're still lost in the illusion and buying into what the Matrix is selling. And that right there is a problem in and of itself. So please consider that before, we part our ways tonight. And maybe I'll see some of you on the gaming channel. Going to play some Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Diving more into the Tudornanen in Ireland. And appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And take care of yourselves. And please don't work too hard this week. And going to drop the link for you all here. Again, please consider it in the like button. We do have memberships available on the channel if you're interested in supporting the channel. It's obviously appreciated but never expected. Where there's a backlog of member videos, and our next monthly member stream, which is the last Sunday of every month, that'll be on the 25th of February 2024 at around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So maybe see you there. Take care of yourselves. Again, don't work too hard. Do what you got to do to survive, and we'll see each other again soon, okay? Thank you.